Hi, welcome to another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty, a podcast about infidelity survival stories. We share tales not about winning back or reconciling with cheaters, but how resilient people who were once betrayed move forward and reinvent their lives for the better. I'm Tracy Shorn, otherwise known as Chump Lady, and I'm here with my delightful co-host Sarah Gorel. And today's topic is getting the hell out of Dodge. When the new life means pulling up stakes for a new hometown, a new career, and a new identity. And our guest is Nancy, who left us this message.
Hi, Tracy and Sarah. My name is Nancy, and I have an example that might help other people. I was chumped after 26 years of marriage, and what I ended up doing is I put all my stuff in storage, and I drove down south. I'm from the north, and became a house mother at a boarding high school. And it was a full-time job. I didn't have to worry about anything about myself, and it helped me regain my footing. So that might be something that could help other people, and I would love to talk more about it. Thank you.
Welcome, Nancy.
Hi.
Tell us how you're mighty.
I am very mighty. I wanted to back it up a little bit to tell you how I learned about Chump Lady, because I am actually a chump kid. And I got in this huge fight with my dad one day, and I was researching narcissism, and your site came up. So I had been reading your blog for a really long time, and I ended up being chumped. And my story is I really didn't understand that I was being chumped. I thought it was an amicable divorce. And I found out 8 months after I was divorced, up on Facebook was a picture of him with somebody that we had gone out to dinner with as a couple. I thought it was a friend.
No. Who?
Yes.
So she was part of a couple?
She said she was with somebody, but apparently she met me, and I had no idea.
He was with someone. He happened to be at the table too.
Well,
I mean, I shouldn't laugh, right? Because I
know, but it's the story. It's my story. It's my story. And they posted it on Facebook. You know, it was a totally post picture going out to dinner. It was the best day of her life. And it was the best day of her life because they just got engaged. So I was living in the same town. I had been divorced. He was a medical professional. I had alimony. And a friend of mine, you know, I had sunk into a depression. I had done the devalue, which really did a number on me. I was really depressed. I had gained weight. I was drinking too much. And a friend of mine called me, a really good friend, and said, there's a job opportunity here. She was a house mother at an agriculture boarding school in South Carolina.
Wow. This is a very different life.
Extremely different. And I thought I was going to be open to whatever presented itself. And I said, you know what? Nobody's offered me anything else. I was in a position. I wasn't doing any caretaking. My parents were elderly, but they're getting along by themselves. And my children were 23 and 25 and had apartments and jobs. And I said, you know what? I'm taking my show on the road.
Well done.
Yeah.
What I find incredible though is that quite often when your whole life has been exploded like this, everything that's familiar, you know, your marriage, the person that you trusted has suddenly disappeared into the ether and shown themselves to be someone completely different to who you thought they were. Sometimes the temptation is to cling on to those little bits of familiarity that we have in our life. So the neighborhood, the friends, the things we've known. I'm kind of inspired by the fact that you were prepared just to completely go off in search of an entirely new world, new life. Was there an element of that was slightly scary?
Well, a lot of it's scary, but it was also I got what I did for myself is I moved away from all the things that triggered me from what I now call my old life. It's my old life. Like I had an old life. Everyone's had 100 old lives. It's my old life. And I realized in my marriage, like I was really adventurous and ambitious and he wasn't. And it drove me crazy. And that's what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to travel. I wanted to go to new places. I wanted to see the highbrow, the lowbrow. and he wouldn't. And it's like, oh my God, this is just the opportunity for me. And another thing that my friend helped me with is the financial part of it. I had free room and board. I
Yeah.
mean, that was really nice. Like, I didn't even have to cook for myself. Like, I didn't have really hardly any responsibilities. So it was exciting. And I didn't really realize how ambitious I was. I mean, adventurous I was until I was free to do whatever I wanted. So what happened was I didn't have any filters on my life anymore. And my children, and you asked me about my children, it's like they're 23 and 25. And I talked to them and I said, you know, this is the time for you to invest in your life. You build the friendships that are going to help you when you're in your 40s and 50s and have all the memories and have all the fun. Like, don't worry about me.
What a gift.
Right. And also in my mom's situation, I found myself in a caretaking role, like soothing her. And I didn't want my kids to do that for me. I didn't want them to worry about me. And I wanted to set an example. And it's like, you got one go. Let's make it a good one.
So you're saying when you were a chump kid, you had to sort of bolster your mom and help her get through it, and you
She
didn't want to
stayed.
do that.
Okay, so here's the thing. She stayed. That's a whole other episode that I
Oh,
think
okay.
we should address.
Well,
And to to keep you updated, they're on their 63rd year of a terrible marriage.
oh man.
So she was encouraging to me.
Mhm.
Okay. She's like, Nancy, get out. You're lucky you can still rebuild. You're still young. She's like, get out. And it was so fun. I mean, it was scary though, but
Mhm.
what's the opposite? Just sit and circle the drain and get depressed. And
Yeah.
I said, you know what? And this is where I am courageous and I am a risk taker and I just wanted to go for it. And I could, so I did.
I think we're fed a narrative though, aren't we? I mean, I remember one of the things that kept me going back and back and back and trying desperately to get my husband back was reading that, reading lots of articles which would say, or if you're a woman over 40, or you won't find another man and you can't start again and it's going to be terrible and your children are going to be distraught and damaged forever. And there is so much out there that tries to stop us from just turning our back on what's gone on and starting again.
One thing that I said to myself over and over is like, what if I was a widow? I would have to do it. I'm just divorced, so why not?
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, what was the road trip like? I mean, sounds like you went cross country or,
What I did, okay, so another thing is my friend called me and she's like, Nancy, she's a great friend, great opportunity for you. And she's like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to wake up and have candy for breakfast. And she's like, why don't you start blogging? So I did an Instagram. The road trip, it was super stressful in a way. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say everything went well. I had movers come and they put everything in storage and they're like, you just need a large. And then we get to storage and 8 pieces of furniture won't fit in. And I had to go from large to jumbo, which means like, I don't even know. But I had a list of places I wanted to see on the way down. Like I like vintage things. There's like a whole antiques place in Pennsylvania. I went to a concert I wanted to see in Asheville. It just was on the way. It was just, I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I had candy for breakfast.
What was the candy?
The candy is Trader Joe's chocolate covered caramel.
Okay.
But I also like, down south of candy kind of melts. So you have to go for the non-melty, right? Yeah, you were down in Texas, right?
Yeah, surface of hell. Yes, it's very hot.
Yes, it's so hot. It's so hot. So the plan was I went down there and I was a house mom. And I had my friends like, Nancy, you have good mom energy. Because I do. And so I went down there and I could travel every weekend. And that's what I wanted to do. So every weekend I left and I went to all kinds of places. And it was like a different launching pad. Like I had been to everywhere in New England that I wanted to go because I lived there for a long time. So it was fun. I went to Asheville. I went to Myrtle Beach. I went to Florida. I went to New Orleans. I went to Chattanooga. I went to Greenville. I went to, the next town over.
Wow.
It was fun. Yeah, it was really fun.
Did you ever say y'all? Did you live there long enough that it turned you to not being a New Englander anymore?
Well, my friend who's from the South. Okay, yeah, this is she's like, what had happened was in the most southern thing says all y'all. So all y'all. But what really happened was sometimes I couldn't understand them. And my friend had to interpret it for me. Like the kids would talk. It was like, what are they saying? Like I wouldn't even know. And the inverse happened was they got upset with me because I'm a New Englander, they thought I was really abrupt. And they're like, you're just really abrupt. And one of the girls in my house said, well, you just get right to it. Like, yep.
So you had some cultural differences.
Oh, it was definitely but I had lived there before, and that's how I met this friend. And I kind of expected it, but it was also kind of the fun. And one of the things about leaving or just going on a new adventure is people only knew about me what I told them. Mm-hmm. So they didn't know what my old life was like. And that's very freeing. I wasn't held to any way that I used to be or what people thought of me. And I could present myself in a truly authentic self. And that was really freeing.
That's amazing.
What's intriguing as well is that divorce is sometimes presented as loss. The breakup of a marriage is a huge loss in your life. Listening to you, Nancy, it sounds like you were actually lost in your marriage and you rediscovered yourself. You were able to be the person that you maybe hadn't been able to be during your marriage. All those things, and a lot of us do it. We suppress who we really are in order to stay with someone, and we make huge compromises, and suddenly you can be who you want to be. Get on, enjoy life. And as you say, eat chocolate for breakfast.
Ooh, exactly. So divorce it's a freedom for some people. And I was living with somebody who I could not get along with. I mean, and I didn't know that he had this big secret, and it was by design. And one thing, we argued about a lot. I tried really hard to get along with him. I get along with a lot of people. I'm not really controversial. And I used a lot of energy trying to get along with him. And just to give you a summary of what it was like, I said, you don't agree with anything I say. And he said, that's not true.
Right. Checkmate.
So multiply that times the last 5 years, and to just meet people and say, hey, want to have some candy, or what are you doing? It was a freedom. I mean, the devaluing in the, they do it so they justify what they're doing. And it was a huge personal cost to me because I didn't understand.
And you didn't have a D-Day until after your divorce.
Right.
So even though you were reading my blog that like bells weren't ringing, you weren't thinking, I wonder if he's being a jerk because he's cheating on me, or
who wouldn't say this, but you would never think he was the type. And we went to marriage counseling, and no, but yeah, here I am, but looking back and other things that you've talked about is like, okay, so what are indicator signals that can help you moving forward? Is like, do they have close friendships? Do they value other family members? I mean, looking back, you can say, oh, I'm going to fix my picker. And what are some signs I can look for in people my age moving forward? But you're right, Sarah, there is a huge freedom to it. The freedom to be myself. I mean, is that the pick me dance? But I didn't know I was doing it. I was trying to get along with somebody that didn't want to get along. And it made me really depressed. And he didn't care.
But you seem to, what a lot of people, I think when you've been in a marriage for a long time, sometimes people struggle to rediscover who they really are. I mean, I know I did to a degree. I had spent so much time sort of compromising and doing things that my husband wanted to do and not going out with friends that he didn't want me to see, and sort of suppressing my social life, that it then becomes really hard to reestablish that.
Yeah. Well, my mom raised us to be independent. Like I met him when I was 26, like I had my own life. And with my own daughters, I said, I want you to be independent. And when I ended up getting divorced, I said, I'm not afraid because I was independent before. I spent a whole paycheck on tires. I mean, that's the sign of adulthood, right? Like I had to navigate it all myself. So I had done it before. But it's just natural to try to get along with somebody and, moving forward, yourself, people that want you to get rid of friends or they're complaining all the time. So moving forward, what do I want in my life? I want to be with somebody that's happy-hearted.
Yeah, or if they're grumpy or they're having a bad day, that they know how to self-soothe and fix themselves and they don't have to lash out or, say it's all about Nancy. She did something to, you're not responsible for their mood. I think a lot of women do a lot of emotional labor they don't need to do, right? Because either it's projected on us that we are the sum of all problems, or we just soak it up because we're the chaos janitors. We have to clean it all up and make it pretty, and and it's freeing to not have that burden any longer.
Very, very freeing.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have any temptation to pull up stakes?
I think because my children were younger and they were immersed in the school and the environment, and also because my job fortunately, I never gave up my job and I had a lot of independence myself. But I did find myself, I suppose I'd call it clinging onto the security of the environment I knew. But actually, I suppose not dissimilar to Nancy, I found things that I had let go, a lot of friendships, people that I'd been friends with that I hadn't seen for ages because he'd have a big flouncy sulk when they came round and he didn't like some of these friends. And I think leaving I mean all of you though now, because I'm in the process of moving house and I'm almost terrified at the moment
Now
to
you
leave
are.
the community that I've built up around myself. And a lot of me thinks, oh, I'd love to travel, I'd love to go and start anew, but there's a comfort in having your friends around you.
Well, one thing that you can do, and I was at a boarding school and the kids could do it too, is like you can FaceTime anyone anytime you want. It's, I mean, things have changed, in the last 10 years. It's so easy now. But the other thing I really liked about just picking up and moving is two things is it just changed all the relationships. Like I wasn't seen, like I wasn't always around. You couldn't just depend on me. And another thing that happened that was kind of funny is I had to put down a work reference, and I had worked for him for like 20 years. And I'm like,
Oh,
I'm putting him down. And he had no idea. And one trouble in our marriage is like he never gave me words of affirmation. Like he never said I was doing a good job or anything. And then the school called him and said, well, what kind of worker was she? And he's like, what is she doing? Oh my God, she's moving where? And they're like, well, stick to the subject, sir. It's like, was she a good worker? Oh yeah, she was excellent. And like, there were my words of affirmation.
I had an evil
Was
thought.
there any temptation to when you were on this adventure to flick through Facebook and see what he was up to, or see, were you interested in what he was up to? Was there still that, need to know whether his new relationship was going well, or not so new relationship as it turns out? Was there any temptation to do that, or did you just manage to put him completely out of your mind and forget he ever existed?
Well, one thing I did is I'm on Instagram as Candy for Breakfast, and I decided to focus on myself and let him figure out what I'm doing, and this new woman, like she can stalk me. I went everywhere. I took pictures of myself. I had so much fun. I was, I, recently with my daughters, I was invited to a wedding in London and we flew over together. Like I have fun friends.
Yeah.
And our joke was like, eat my sparkle dust. Like you worry about what I'm doing next.
I was thinking when you were giving the reference, and he's so shocked and indignant that you are looking for a job, I guess, that doesn't orbit around him, that I did have an evil thought that you could have posted your status on Facebook. Like, instead of listing as a reference, it could just be Nancy has a new job. I mean, it's the way you found out. It's the way he could find out. But your way was better. I'm glad he gave you a good reference. Like, you were a good wife appliance and a good office appliance.
And he
And
had
good
to say
appliance
it.
all around.
He had to say it. But you know what, I was. And everything I did it happily. Like that's my nature. And I learned the skills and I took those skills with me. That's how I have to think about it. And I'm not ashamed of anything I did. I don't have to hide.
What's next? So you did this job for a year. Did you like the job? You decide you want new horizons? What's next?
Well, I did miss my family and friends, my parents and my kids, and especially my kids. And, I had a huge life here. I mean, I have a lot of friends. I had a million things. I like to do a lot of stuff. I really do. It was wonderful in the sense that I had time to think about myself. I didn't have the pull of, my old, what I was like before. I could take time for myself. I was really unavailable. And going forward, I want to work part-time. I like to work. The exact situation, now I worked for a year for somebody. Before I just worked, did stuff from home, for his office or whatever. So working for somebody else was a challenge. So it made me think about it and how I like to work and what I want to do. So I have things and I have to work too. And I should, you need health insurance and plan for your retirement and that kind of thing. And it gives you structure to your life, social structure, and also validation. So I just moved back. I mean, super recently. I just found a place to live. I mean, that was kind of stressful. My kids are super happy that I'm back. One thing I did before I left with my kids is we made plans to get together. I had a week vacation, and I got an Airbnb in Asheville, and we went to Asheville for a week. So that sort of set a new way that we relate. It was just a neutral ground. It wasn't like we're sitting in some house and we're upset.
So have you made new traditions? It sounds like you have
Yes, in new locations. So the whole moving and taking the show on the road and getting out of Dodge was like, I didn't have the old triggers. And that was really helped me.
You're so filled with like the joy of life and what you've got now and the relationships with your kids and your friends. What would life be like if he was still in it then? Because I don't know about you, and probably Tracy does this as well. Every so often I have a dream where I am still married, and it is a nightmare actually. And you wake up and you think, thank goodness. And I know a lot of people who've just just found out about infidelity. You think life will be appalling and you'll never manage. But I think for most of us, when we come out the other side, we realize that life is so much better. Did you have that realization almost immediately, Nancy?
Well, I really struggled to get along with him, and it was really confusing to me because I'm pretty easy to get along with. I'm just like, whatever, I'm on the serendipity plan. That's my joke. I'm on the serendipity plan, and so far so good. I couldn't understand that. And also, I had a brother that died when he was 30. He dropped dead. He had a brain aneurysm. It was devastating. And I decided I'm just going to enjoy my life, like instead of being sad. And it's like, we had a wonderful life. I mean, absolutely wonderful. And I'm like, I'm just going to enjoy it. And my dad was a stinker because he was living a double life. And I'm like, I'm not living with a stinker. And he just turned into a stinker because people that lead double lives are stinkers. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So it kind of was a relief. And he was mean to me until I decided I couldn't take it anymore. And then he was free to do what he wanted. And you know what? That's how he rolls. I'm more like, let's talk about it. We went to counseling. But I want to enjoy my life. There's a lot of good in life. My integrity has given me strength every day. I told my kids, I don't have to worry. I didn't do anything. I can put down anybody as a reference.
Yeah, you don't have any secrets. You're not living the double life.
Another thing is, like, when you know the truth, you can make a good decision. And sometimes the truth is hard, but some people don't want you to know the truth because they don't want you to make a good decision.
I think that whole thing about being, and I don't know if it was this way for you, Sarah, but this whole thing of being shitty to somebody. I mean, generally cheaters want cake. They want maximum attention from everybody as long as they can get it. But and sometimes they leave or go off to shinier pastures, whatever it is. But it's that failure to appreciate it. I mean, you have this appreciation for life, and they get the double life, they get the double portions, they get all of it, and they're still not satisfied with it. They can just have all these gifts and they're miserable. And I really don't think that changes. And I joke they don't get character transplants. That authentic change is really painful. It's really hard. And for people who are chumped, I mean, these kind of changes are inflicted on us. We have to sink or swim. And I think for them, they they don't do the work. And I don't think they're happier for it. I mean, not that we should compare ourselves to fuckwits, but I think it's inevitable that people do. It's a big power move. You know, when someone cheats on you, you think, oh my God, what did that other person have that I don't have? They have a jerk. They have a stinker. That's what have.
I think a lot of us, though, but before we get to this point where we find out about the cheating, I mean, I came across a photograph from 10 years ago when this was all happening, and I looked awful. I thought I looked amazing because I'd lost so much weight and I was so thin and I looked so miserable and so drawn and so unhappy. And it was all during that time where he was going out for long hours. He was being absolutely horrible to me, really unpleasant. It was a horrible environment to live in. And during this time, I was getting regular emails. You know, when you go online and you Google how to save your marriage, and I was getting these emails about how to keep him happy. So I was dancing around like an idiot, and I was allowing him to do whatever. I wasn't questioning anything. I was cooking his favorite meals. I was doing absolutely everything to please him. None of it worked, and I was just descending into this complete misery and depression, and we're told to do that. We're not told to do what you do, Nancy. We're not told, right, get up, it's your life, appreciate it. We are literally told to do what you tell everyone we shouldn't do, Tracy, the pick me dance. We're encouraged down that route.
I think they devalue you. I was trying to make this point earlier and it skipped me, but I think they devalue you and they act shitty because they want you to be the big bad person, the big baddie, and divorce them and get all the flack for that and be the quitter and the person who couldn't hack it. And, and so many people just break under that pressure, or they turn inward, they blame themselves, they're paralyzed by it, or they do the pick me dance, God damn it, I'm going to win this thing. Maybe Sarah, maybe this is what you were doing. I'm going to lose the baby weight. I'm going to be fabulous and you're going to love me. I mean, it's all kind of orbiting around the narcissist. It's all doing what they want to do. So I love I'm fine without you.
My sparkle dust. You figure out where I am. Yeah, you find me. I'm gone. I am not. You weren't what you thought. I'm not what you thought I was. You thought I was sad and pathetic and, and you found somebody shining. No, that's not the real me. That's the me when I was with you. Now that I'm free, woo, it's fun.
I love it.
And he's like, Nancy, you and your jokes. Like, he didn't like my jokes. Noelle, you should enjoy your life. And it just goes, I think, to be happy is a choice. I mean, you can say to yourself, I want to be happy with what I have. And if somebody's not happy, you can't fix that. You can't. And those people are stinkers. And
yeah, I mean, I'm not to make light of it. I'm sure we all know how traumatic it is to make these discoveries. And if anyone's listening to this and does not feel happy, it's okay. It's totally normal not to. It's gonna suck for quite a while. And and a lot of people, I mean, especially women, anyone can be chumped, but a lot of people are not blessed with job skills or alimony or great career. I really worry about vulnerable people and how they do it. But I love that your friend reached out to you, and everybody can make a friend and everyone can network. And, you were kind of saved by your friend. And it's a beautiful thing. It's building a community. It's kind of why I do the blog.
She was chumped too.
She got it.
She kind of knew. She did. And, and even if you don't have a lot of resources, your mindset is really valuable. And that's your treasure, and it's your life. And I say, enjoy it. And
I cannot argue with that. Yeah, absolutely. And eat all the salted Trader Joe's caramels you want to. Well, on that note, I'm gonna wrap it up. And thank you for listening to another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty. And next week, we're going to talk with Dr. George Simon, who's the author of In Sheep's Clothing. He's the master decoder of all things manipulation. And if you have any questions you want to ask, or a mighty story like Nancy's you'd like to share with us, you can get in touch at chumplady.com/mighty. And please remember to follow and review us if you enjoyed the podcast. Thanks.